good morning, Veterans Council and Veterans Facebook and YouTube fans. Man, I tell you what, it's been a busy week. Saturday, my usual time. Normally I'm on Friday, but it's Saturday because I wanted to, after recuperating, we finally completed our Veterans and Families Suicide Prevention Forum. And one of the things we always want to note about is that it was a success. One of the things for me, that's important is that we are able to sit there and get together and take care of each other. So the panel, we had over 18 panelists from the whole spectrum, from the military, the veterans, and the family members that really provided some great contact and hopefully impact. People got a chance to see it. Hope you got something out of it. But don't worry, when we get it finally all edited and everything else like that, we'll put it out for the masses so they get a chance to see this as well. And I know that even though September was designated being the Veteran Suicide, well, not veteran, for me it's veteran, but the Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, we have to understand that suicide doesn't have a particular month or time. So we still got to maintain our vigilance and making sure that we can stop a veteran from dying by suicide, especially as we get close to the holidays. I know statistically speaking that they say that the time that most time people die by suicide is normally in the March, April timeframe. But with this COVID-19 going on and all this stuff going on around, I really think we need to be really vigilant as we get close to the holidays. So again, please, don't let the foot off the pedal. Keep it moving. Reach out, touch people, touch somebody you don't know who may be affected. You just don't know when somebody's been affected or not when it comes to veteran suicide. But again, as I said, the event, I think the event was successful. We had it here. It is here. We had it on Wednesday, about 5.5 hours of panel that consists of faith-based panel. Thank you very much for the faith-based panelists. Also, we had the families, and we're going to come to that in a minute. The Winklers, who gave a really touching and really, I think, motivating at the same time. It's very tough when you deal with suicide. And the Winklers who lost their son to suicide, Drew, were able to sit and take that negative into a positive, and they're out there helping other veterans, which is what I think we need to try to do. Is we got to continue to try to sit there and impact the other veterans that are out there. So what I want to try to do is, one of the families out there, the Winklers, the Winklers, Rebecca and Rick, the husband and wife, and both of them are veterans, both of them are Air Force veterans. And in fact, Rick retired from the Air Force and now works for the Sheriff's Department, and Rebecca is working as DOD. So that's a family, and I want to set this up as we watch the video. I want us to get a chance to watch this video. Drew Winkler was an airman. He's an A1C airman. He died by suicide on May 30th, 2016, which is that's Memorial Day, which is already, that by itself was kind of sad too, that he chose that day to pick it to die by suicide. And he left behind, and this is the most important thing, the tragedy, the people who have to who then have to carry that tragedy of somebody dying by suicide, somebody close to them dying by suicide. In this case, he left behind an older and younger brother, Craig and Corey, and two young boys, Christian and Caden. So when somebody dies by suicide, it really affects not just that individual, but the family as well. And I wanted to constantly emphasize that. You'll see that one of the things about Veterans Council Veterans, one of the things I see that we don't have is support for families who lost someone to suicide. And that's something I need your help out. I need your help out there, because there are families out there who are grieving, who are suffering, who lost someone to suicide, and there's a big stigma, and everybody kind of runs away from it as if they have the disease because they don't really know what to they don't know what to say, but two, they're afraid and you'll see in this upcoming video of sometimes you feel like you walk on an eggshell because you don't really know how to address that person. So what I want to do, I want to show you a small excerpt that we had on our event on Wednesday for the families and veterans of suicide, the Winklers, and we're going to introduce you to the brothers, Corey and Craig, because that's something you don't hear much about when it comes to suicide, about the other family members. You hear about the mother and the father, and the spouse, but you rarely hear about the siblings. And so right now, we're going to play the Winklers.
I'm Corey Winkler. I was Drew's older brother. I've been in the fire service for 12 years. I've worked for the city of Crestview, base military, but a lot of similarities with the brotherhood and some of the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I'll be able to kind of share a little bit about how that relates to what I've had to deal with. And,
okay, wait. I'm the young one, but I work in the juvenile justice system, basically. I'll give my perspective kind of basically on like how I handle my stress and anxiety, even though I deal with kids from 12 to 20, 21, before hopefully helping them before they go into jail to get them back on the better path. So I deal with a wide variety of individuals on a daily basis. So I can give a little aspect on that, and it's stressful, so you got to be able to maintain yourself. After coming back from the military, it was definitely more reclusive, more hermit crab aspect. Didn't want to leave much. If it was, like, it takes maybe 10, 15 minutes to get out either side of our city from where he lived. That was maybe the bubble that he felt comfortable in. Anything outside of that, kind of like what the doctor said, take a Xanax and drive, which isn't very smart, but that was the solution that they had for him. So before military, definitely funny. Shoot, he was the one that he put an electric dog collar fence on his neck because he didn't want the convict to have it on him before knowing what it felt like. So there's a video out there of him running across the invisible barrier getting shot by a dog collar on YouTube. Yeah, like he was just the fun one. He wanted to go out and do stuff. The light, so to say, but afterwards, definitely much dimmer and reclusive.
Yeah, Drew and I were a little bit closer in age, about almost 2 years apart. But being military kids, everywhere we lived, we typically shared the same room together. And Drew was always really intelligent. He had a comical outlook on life. He was always funny, very outgoing, and he was very friendly. I mean, it didn't matter what kind of person somebody was. He even ended up becoming friends with people that had slided against him, if you wanted to call it. May have done wrong to him. He always saw the positives in people and was able to. He had this unique capability of making that a good characteristic as far as I think that's what. But it was a good characteristic that he possessed, that he was able to take a lot of negatives and make them positives. And then when he came back to the military, I don't think he quite was able to do that as much. His outlook was much darker. He had a much more negative impact or outlook on the military. His outlook on our country, I think, had changed based on some things that he had said had happened to him when he was deployed. And it was just, he wasn't the same person. And that's really the best way to describe it. He just wasn't the same person that he was before he joined the military. And it was evident to everybody.
My brother, we were in townhomes, so I could walk off my porch and be looking at his front door. And it really sucked because when I woke up and I had a text that just said, "I love you," and then the post on Facebook, I knew, being a military kid, you know what that statement is referring to. So you got a flip of a coin of what's going to happen. So I knew I was either going to walk out front and find my brother or in his house, or which what I ended up having to do, drive 10 minutes across town. And when I pulled up, I found him in the car. It definitely wasn't easy. I did go to counseling. I will say that it's one of those people say counseling. Everyone tells you to go to counseling, but then everybody looks at you like, "Oh, you went to counseling." And honestly, it helps. I got to talk to a third party that knew absolutely nothing about me. They weren't judging me, and I got to get things off my chest, good or bad, and I wasn't judged. It was definitely stressful. There's still things I'm working on, obviously. That's like come the anniversary, like this year, I took a week off of work because just a high stress job. I don't want to be put in that situation to where I might do something that I'll regret just because of anxiety and depression and everything. So I take the time to kind of try to keep my mental health acceptable. unfortunately, it's one of those things I'm going to have to live with. If we were in a more private situation, I could tell you the story, and you would know every little detail and be able. I've got to work.
If the impact's not as direct, I think it's going to have more of an impact down the road as this stuff, I guess, manifests itself. My role in the fire department right now is more on the administrative side, but I still go to calls from time to time where somebody is, they either hung themselves from a tree, or it could have been death by gun. The biggest thing that impacted me was when I was still, my job as a firefighter at the time was still riding the fire truck, and I was coming off duty the morning that he took his own life, and I was able to go home. I was in the shower. My wife had gotten a phone call from my mom saying, "Hey, you need to tell Corey he needs to get out of the shower. He needs to come over to our house because Drew's just taking his own life." And of course, in that moment, there's a lot of confusion, frustration, really more shock than anything else. And the biggest impact that it had on me directly as a firefighter was because my parents live in the same town of the fire department that I serve. The guys that I've worked with for 10 years or more were there. So they actually saw my brother. And of course, I don't want to say, embarrassed. It wasn't embarrassed. It was more like I didn't want them to look at my family in a wrong way or a different way. I didn't want them to feel bad for us or anything because, you don't want to feel weak. But they were there and supportive through the whole thing. But I think that was the biggest impact for me as a firefighter was it happened to me coming off duty. The guys that I knew were there. And, of course, time has gone on. So not saying people have forgotten, but there's been a lot of different people in the fire department now that weren't there when that happened. So, I cope with it. I think that to answer your question, that's been the biggest impact for me in the fire department side.
So that was just a small excerpt. You'll be able to see more of it. The whole taping of the Winkler and learn some insights in that. One thing I did want to say about what they mentioned is that, first of all, Craig talked about how and this is the thing, when you're in the space of suicide prevention, you're find yourself a lot of times with people who say one thing but do another. And that's kind of what Craig was saying when he was saying that. He said, "Hey, I'm going to go counseling," but then people say, "You're going to go to counseling?" It's kind of like that. It's like people say, it's like what we call cognitive dissonance. They'll say one thing because it sounds good, but then they'll do another, and so that only increases the stigma. And as Craig mentioned earlier, he had benefit from counseling. So one of the things I want to take away, I want everybody who lost someone to suicide, knows someone to suicide, and definitely counseling helps. Please advocate for help. Be sensitive. I know it's difficult sometimes until it's you. Sometimes you can't even know what the experience is until it happens to you. That's the sad part of the empathy. But that's something that Craig really empathized. And I'll tell you another thing that they mentioned, all of them mentioned, is how when Drew came back from the military, got out of the military, his whole thing changed, his whole demeanor changed from being happy, being the jokester to being really withdrawn and stuff. And those are also some great symptoms to look at, how when somebody goes from 1 to 2. But the really takeaway that I always say about it is that, there's one thing about being aware, and there's another thing about doing something about it. Okay, and that's what I want to do. I want to push on is doing something about it. So you'll hear about some initiatives Veterans Council veterans are coming up with. We want to have an engagement team. We want to have people who are peers. I think that peers are the best, most effective when it comes to suicide prevention, veteran suicide prevention. I think we need to put more money, emphasis on that, so we get more peers. So we're going to look at having some more peers involved. We're going to have more engagement. We're going to have to create relationships, hopefully with agreements with in our case, where we're at in Hillsborough County, we can get some agreements where we can get collaborating, people working together. We're not really good at working together. I mean, whenever you have people coming together, it's always one person saying, my idea, but we really got to find a way to work together. So those are some of the things we want to do, but we also don't want to forget about the families who lost someone to suicide. And we want to do something for that. So we're going to create an engagement team for that. So when we find out, if please let me know. If you know someone that died by suicide, let me know. And if they're in Florida, we'll send out an engagement team. An engagement team is going to be led by a survivor, somebody who already experienced what the family experienced, with some counselors, some peers. So let us know if you know somebody who died by suicide in the Florida area, and we'll make sure we try to dispatch a team out there to help them out and help them go through the struggles. We don't want them to feel they're by themselves. You know, that's one of the things that happens when you lose someone to suicide. You self-isolate, but other people also isolate from you. So it's not just one, it's both. So just let me know if you want to help out. You get a hold of me on Veterans Council of Veterans on our Facebook here, DM and say, hey Tony, I want to help out. I want to stop being the person that says sorry for your loss. You want to say, hey, I want to be part of this. Let us know. We are about action. You know, I'm a Mustang. So I was an NCO first, officer second. My dad was a drill sergeant. So I still have that mentality of let's get things done. Let's get things done. So the talking should stop, and it's time to start doing things. I hope everybody in the community helps join Veteran Council Veteran. I always say that veteran suicide is a national problem with a local solution. And that local solution is you guys out there. And you know, it's not gonna touch, you know, a national. Tom Cruise mentioned about we're gonna need a national just to help with the funding and stuff, but it's gonna take us as individuals to really make that change, that difference. It's like anybody in the military, it's like doing a police call and we gotta pick up that cigarette butt. We do a police call, everybody goes shoulder to shoulder, and we walk down that field. That's how you're going to stop veteran suicide. It's going to take the entire community knowing what to look for and then be able to do something about it. So we just don't walk by a cigarette butt and say, oh, there's a cigarette butt. You got to then do something about that, and that's going to take the entire community. So anyway, I just want to give you the excerpt. There's more out there throughout the coming weeks. You'll start seeing some excerpts of what occurred during our forum, and hopefully there'll be something there'll be takeaways. So anyway, guys, this is Tony Williams. It's Saturday. And I ain't supposed to be here on a Saturday. I'm retired. But until then, guys, see you then.